What distinguishes amateurs from professionals? Well, it really is that fine attention to detail and intonation, having that security to land right on the note or to adjust immediately if you're a little bit off. That's the skill that you need to really play with the pros. My friend Daniel Chiva Sanz came out with a super cool method. It's available in our sheet music store, and we're going to dig in with him and I'll demo how to use this to really level up your intonation. We explore topics like this every single week on our email newsletter, and it's a wonderful community. It would be great to have you there if you're not already subscribed. I've been having so much success applying this to my playing, and it was really cool to sit down and talk with Danny about his inspiration behind the project.
I'm preparing, in my case, for a situation, for an audition, that I need to have the confidence that every time that I do 1/4, it's going to be in tune. If the first finger that lands in the position is in tune, that gives me so much peace of mind that if my first finger lands in the right spot, the second and the fourth are going to be there.
And once I get it there, I just sit with it for a little bit. Have the patience, like Daniel says, to not move on, to really just live with that pitch.
With those super simple exercises, what you're doing is like you're repeating so many times something that simple that suddenly it becomes natural to your hand.
So as you can see, there's no durational requirement for any of these notes that I can take as many bows as I want. I'm just finding the pitch, really sinking into the exact intonation, and then just feeling how it feels in my hand, how it sits, how it sounds under my ear. And I find that doing this for 5, 10, even 15 minutes a day has been just kind of like an intonation recalibration.
Once you get the book, you can do whatever you want, but the way that I recommend is to follow the playlist that I've created, like a set of playlists. With those selections, you get a little taste of everything in the book. Because if you play with the recordings, the first book is going to take you like 12 hours to make it through all the recordings from first exercise. A good way to start your practice session, put the playlist, do 30 minutes. If you are like me, that I am addicted to do scales, I just get a scale per day and I do the whole scale.
It's kind of like musical hygiene is a term that David Allen Moore, the wonderful bass teacher, uses about things that you do every day just to keep, it's like brushing your teeth, but for music. And this has been just such a splendid way to do it. And the way that Daniel thinks about these patterns and how they lay out on the bass, I find to be super duper helpful. I find that after I do this and then I go play my repertoire, I'll leave the tuner on for a little bit and I'll notice how I'm just so much closer to being dead center on the pitch, and I'm more confident in terms of adjusting if I'm a little bit off.
The difference that I can see I've always seen between like a regular player, like everyone, and suddenly you see the pros. And what is the difference? I think it's intonation. Like there is all over the board, whatever orchestra you go, whoever has been a pro or is a pro, the difference is intonation. They're in tune. They know they did the work.
And we start to incorporate crossing more strings, so just feeling how this feels under the hand. And something I notice as I practice these, and this is something that Danny talks about too, is that if I'm off, it's generally in the flat direction. I think we bassists are notorious for playing flat. Many reasons why that's the case, including the thickness of the strings. It takes more to push them down, and other factors too. We could probably do a whole very nerdy video on that if you want. Leave a comment below and we can make that happen.
Now I have to go to the tuner to make sure that now I'm not playing sharp, but I'm playing, because I've been playing so flat this part, that now it sounds weird.
Then getting into crossing all 4 strings, and these are moves you have to do all the time in an ensemble setting, so really taking the time and focusing on them in this kind of a context is great.
If you do play basketball, for example, like if you see the amount of like the pro players, they will go and do the same throw, or like a free throw, they will do hundreds of free throws.
What's cool about how he breaks this all down is these are motions that you do in orchestral literature all the time, and to just actually get scientific about analyzing them and making sure that they're just dead on in tune in this more abstract technique practice type of way. I've been really finding it improving my accuracy. And some might look at this and think, my goodness, how boring.
One of my colleagues, he was working on the book the other day, and he was saying like, oh, like the book is so great. It's like, it's making me realize a lot of things that there were recurring problems about my technique, but it's so boring.
But I find that the older I get and the more experience I get, and hopefully the better I get, the more important the fundamentals matter. And if I'm really practicing right, everything, even just open strings, becomes endlessly interesting. I'm also monitoring my level of tension or relaxation, hopefully relaxation. If I'm not careful, I can feel things start to build up. So just making sure things stay loose. And if there's any sort of fatigue, which there often could be if you do this for too long of a sustained period, definitely check in, take a break, put it away. This is a long game we're playing here, so give yourself the time to develop and you will be amazed at the results. Then we get all into bar fingerings, which is something I do not ever practice basically, and this has been really interesting and humbling. Getting into triads on the same string, very cool. Flat, of course. And the adjusting when I'm off is key.
This is not meant for people who are learning the instrument per se. This is a book for people who is like, okay, I know how to play the instrument, now let's work.
And then we get into the scale book, and it's so cool and so much material. How many is this? 412 pages, my goodness.
Like imagine that you have 5 hours to practice, and you have 3 excerpts to practice, and you put like 30 minutes into do a scales, and suddenly you put an hour and a little bit on each one of the excerpts, and after that you start running through. And probably you progress a little bit on this excerpt, a little bit on the other excerpt, a little bit in the other excerpt. But suddenly if you put 3 hours on fundamental technique, suddenly you've elevated every excerpt that you're practicing, or the concerto. And you see the results, and you see like, oh my God, I should have done that before.
Humbling is the word I would describe to realizing how off I am. I am close, but close doesn't cut it for intonation. So this has been just a wonderful eye-opener to what I really need to be doing on my playing. I warm up in this way even without these materials, but this has been really interesting, just the thought that Daniel's put into this and the first book, and just orienting your fingers and now applying it to scales. Really, really lovely material. That's a look inside the School of Patience, and if you dug this video, check out what we've got linked up. We'll see you there.